Good morning. Good morning. It's Jamaica Live. We're on Bridge 99. Today is the Monday the 4th of April. You know, it's amazing. I mean, a quarter of the year has gone. When I was a youngster, a, a week to me looked like a month. I couldn't understand why it took me so long to become a teenager, to get to 18 so that I could get a driver's license, or to get to 21 so that I could vote. In those days, you had to be 21 before you could vote. Now, at my age, a month looks more like a week. And time moves on, so that a quarter of the year has gone. We're on Bridge 99. We're broadcasting from Kingston, but at noon, we're going to be linking with our sister station, Irish Jam, in New York, talking with Beauregard, who is the anchor up there, and through him, talking with the Jamaican diaspora. So welcome. Bridge 99, Jamaica Live. Technology continues to change the way we live, the way we work, the way we play, the way we do business, the way we do everything. Those changes are now taking place in ways and with a rapidity that even just a few years ago could not even be imagined. Some of us may remember in high school or in university learning about the agricultural revolution and the industrial revolution. We are now into a third revolution, the digital revolution, which started back in the 1980s and is traveling at lightning speed. People of my age find it mind-boggling. My grandchildren don't have that problem. They take it for granted. And they can't figure out how I lived without it when I was their age. You know, an issue that has been very much in the news in recent times is how digital technology is affecting banking services. Bank branches are being closed and customers are not only being encouraged, but are virtually being forced to adapt to electronic banking. Please don't come to the bank hall, they say. Use your computer or your smartphone. ATM kiosks are popping up everywhere, even at gas stations. Digital wallets are becoming more widely used. I was at a supermarket recently and watched as the customer ahead of me took out her smartphone and paid for her purchases with the smartphone. An old fogey like me has yet to learn how to do that. The latest innovation is the digital currency. This is not paper money. Some digital currencies, those that are called cryptocurrencies, are not issued by a central bank. They are not backed by gold or foreign reserves. But they are tradable assets that can be used to do business, to pay for goods and services, the same purposes for which paper money is used. Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency to be introduced back in 2009. That's what, 13 years ago. Today there are thousands of different cryptocurrencies. Last time I checked, it was about 13,000. And they include cryptocurrencies like Ethereum, Tether, Binance, Solana, XRP, Cardano, you name them. The cryptocurrency market today is worth over $2 trillion US dollars, and it is growing rapidly. Cryptocurrencies are very much like stocks. They are traded, their value is market driven, and that value can go up or down depending on market conditions. I spoke with someone recently, a week ago, who bought a US $5,000 Bitcoin. No, not 5,000, 500. He bought it for his son, and within a matter of a few months, it was being traded at more than 600 US dollars. That's more than 20% profit in just a matter of a few months. There are other forms of digital currency that are different from the cryptocurrency. These are managed and backed by some central authority, like a central bank. The Bank of Jamaica has recently issued its own central bank digital currency. I think it's called, I don't know, we get to that. So far, it can be used only for domestic transactions and is being promoted as a means of avoiding the hefty and annoying fees that customers are charged when they do transactions through the banks. So, all those people who are complaining about every time they cash a check, every time they do a transaction at the bank charges them a fee, a $200, a $500, whatever. What the Bank of Jamaica is saying is that if you want to avoid those fees, use the Bank of Jamaica central bank digital currency. Today we want to learn more about this innovation. How does digital currency work? Where does a cryptocurrency get its value from? What are the risks involved in buying a cryptocurrency, and what determines its fortunes, how it does, whether you make money or you lose money from it? What would happen to my investment in a cryptocurrency if, for example, the world was to experience a global financial crisis such as what we had back in 2008, 2009? What are the differences as they relate to a digital currency issued by a central authority, such as the one that has been introduced by the Bank of Jamaica? Is it backed by the Bank of Jamaica? Does that mean that it has the same protection as the Bank of Jamaica provides for the banknotes that it issues? Is it just a means of exchange for conducting transactions, or is it a store of value? In other words, can I put my pension money in the Bank of Jamaica digital currency in the hope and in the expectation that when I retire, that pension money will have grown? Is that value, the value of the Bank of Jamaica digital currency, is that value still susceptible to inflation like the banknotes we have in our pockets? A $100 bill today can't buy what it used to buy 2 years ago, 6 months ago, 5 years ago. Another important question is, how do governments, including our own government here in Jamaica, how do governments view cryptocurrencies? It is not regulated. Because it is not regulated, it may well facilitate illegal activities like money laundering, financing terrorism. It may facilitate tax evasion. If you put your wealth in cryptocurrencies, then you may be able to avoid a taxman. If its use continues to grow as exponentially as it has been growing up to now, is it capable of undermining the role and interconnectedness of central bank authorities and put the entire global financial system at systemic risk? Governments generally, even those that are heavily committed to market forces and private sector innovation, have so far been very wary of cryptocurrencies. They are concerned about the risks. They are concerned about the erosion of their regulatory authority. Last month, President Joe Biden in the U.S. issued an executive order for the U.S. Treasury to carefully examine the risks and benefits of cryptocurrencies. It seeks to focus on specific issues: consumer protection, financial stability, illegal activities, U.S. competitiveness, financial inclusion. Is it likely that governments will arrive at some consensus and perhaps even some sort of international treaty to control or regulate cryptocurrency transactions? What impact would that have on those who have invested in this type of currency? And what impact will it have on the global financial system if trillions and trillions of dollars are at stake? Money is contagious. We saw it back in 2008, 2009, where the real estate bubble, among other things, just burst and brought down the whole global financial system, or brought it to its knees. I mean, several banks went belly up. Thank God none of that happened in Jamaica. But what impact would it have on the global financial system if the cryptocurrency market were to run into trouble, involving, as I said, trillions and trillions of dollars? And how would that affect the poor farmer in Cocoa Ridge or the poor helper in Savlamar, in terms of their own survival, the price that they have to pay for goods, the interest rates that they have to pay on the mortgage or the loans that they have from the bank? These are important issues. These are weighty issues, and we're going to be talking with some people who have weighty knowledge on these matters in order to get a better understanding of the issues involved. This is the discussion today when we come back. Welcome back. It's Jamaica Live. We're on Bridge 99, broadcasting from Kingston. We're going to be linking with New York at midday. Today we're talking about digital currencies in all their aspects. It's something new. It's something that is growing almost like wild bush across the world, and we want to get an understanding of it because it affects us. Our own central bank has introduced its own digital currency. There are different types, as I was explaining when introduced the topic. And we're anxious to learn more about it, to become more financially intelligent. Mr. Mario Griffiths is the Director of Payment System Policy and Development Department at the Bank of Jamaica. And he's in a position where he can talk to us about what this means, what impact this will have, what convenience it will provide, how will it affect the way we do business, the way we do transactions. Mr. Griffiths, do I have you online?
Yes, you do. Good morning, Mr. Golding, and thank you for having me on your program.
Good morning, and I want to thank you for joining me. And I know your own focus may be limited to the digital currency that the Bank of Jamaica has introduced. Explain to us what is it? How does it work? How will it change the way we do business? How will it affect our lives?
Okay. All right. Well, let me start off by saying the digital currency that the Bank of Jamaica is engaging on is really a central bank digital currency. That is money in a digital form. We're working to ensure that the legislative amendments to the Bank of Jamaica Act gives it legal tender status. We also want to ensure that the legislation also indicates that it's only the Bank of Jamaica has the sole right to issue digital currency. It's also a means of payment. So similar to, banknotes and coins, your debit card, credit card, checks, your mobile wallet, CBDC or Jamdex as we call it, it will also be a means of payment. So that's the name of Jamaica's central bank digital currency. It's called Jamdex, and that stands for Jamaica Digital Exchange.
Now, a couple of basic things.
Yes.
As I understand it, it's only available for domestic transactions. I mean, I can't use it to pay my granddaughter's school fees in America, can I?
No, you can't. Only for domestic purpose, because we're focusing on Jamaica first, and we're ensuring that we build out an ecosystem in Jamaica where persons are, become a lot more familiar with the utilization of digital currency. So we're focused on Jamaica.
Is it envisaged that sometime in the future it would be able to be used for international transactions?
We are having internal discussions, and that's a consideration that's on the table. But there are a number of factors that we may need to consider if we want to use our Jamdex for international transactions. We have to consider all the necessary money laundering risks. Also, the technical feasibility of connecting our Jamdex system with other systems internationally, and who will be the ultimate operator or authority on such connectivity. So the legislation needs to also be in place for that.
Well, let me probe that a little more with you. Let us say that I have a PayPal account, which I use to make purchases overseas, internationally. And that PayPal account is linked to a bank account that I have in Jamaica, which may be in J dollars. Would I be able to use your digital currency to deposit money in that bank account in order that they can pay PayPal through their exchange conversion arrangement?
That's a good example, the PayPal example, and linking it to a bank account, because right now most PayPal accounts are tied to a bank account in some way, shape, or form. It's normally tied to a debit or credit card, or international SIM card, Visa or MasterCard. So how individuals will be able to utilize Jamdex is through what we call a digital wallet. And digital wallets are issued by wallet providers. In our case, that's deposit-taking institution, commercial banks. And we're adding to the mix authorized payment service providers. So once you have your digital wallet, it's up to that wallet provider to provide that service that integrates Jamdex into your PayPal.
Which would include a conversion that they would do.
That's correct.
I see. Now tell me something else, Mario. This is not. You're not creating money. In other words, for me to access or utilize your digital currency, I have to put up some Jamaican cash, no?
That's correct.
Work that through for me so that the listeners can understand how the thing works.
All right. So let me start from the beginning. In a similar manner that Bank of Jamaica issues banknotes and coins using the two-tier model through to commercial banks, and then from commercial banks to individual users, that's companies, the public. We'll be utilizing a similar model. The Bank of Jamaica will be able to mint CBDC locally. We'll be able to issue that CBDC to deposit-taking institutions, and it's for them to issue to their customers, that's individuals or merchants. So, that's the starting point.
So the Bank of Jamaica is not taking any risk then in terms of issuing the currency?
No. So, back to your question though, in terms of how does it work in terms of the conversion, yes, it is one-to-one. So in a similar manner where, commercial banks purchase banknotes and coins from the Bank of Jamaica, they will also purchase Jamdex from the Bank of Jamaica as well. And the conversion is one-to-one because really it is money in a digital form.
And then they put that in my account?
That's correct. Or let me if it's Jamdex, we don't use the word account, it's really your wallet.
Your wallet, okay.
Digital wallet.
Now,
it's different from a deposit account.
Now, part of the sales pitch that the Bank of Jamaica has been pushing is that this will help you to avoid the annoying fees that banks charge for basic transactions. Explain that part to us.
Okay, so once you have your digital wallet from your wallet provider and you have requested your Jamdex, whether you're moving it from your savings account or you're using any other medium that your wallet provider provides to you as their customer, be it over the counter in exchange for banknotes and coins, or you're using an intelligent ABM, those are the mechanisms that you'll be able to utilize that Jamdex on. So, yeah, I think that's that. I mean, it's really up to the wallet provider and what it is that they want to provide to you.
What has been the result? What has been the response of the wallet providers to the introduction?
They are interested. I can't say that much. Right now we have one wallet provider that's providing CBDC or Jamdex, and that's the NCB TFOB, and that's a subsidiary of NCB.
Mario, I haven't seen that in their marketing. Are you getting the kind of cooperation from them in terms of their own marketing so that your customers can know that they, or let me put a bold question to you. Are they worried that this is going to deprive them of the fees that they would normally charge for some of these transactions?
Well, not necessarily. The main point is that, CBDC is zero cost. I mean, it's free, no cost. Once you're transacting on the Jamdex or the CBDC network. And that's what we're building on. So
yeah, but if I'm a bank, why do I want to promote your Jamdex or whatever you call it, if that is going to deprive me of fees that the customers would have to pay if they didn't have that facility?
Mm-hmm. Well, there are a number of reasons. Once it is accessing, additional customers, and these are persons who are unbanked or underserved. And, it's having that information whereby they'll be able to better understand this target group or customers, and better understanding their needs and better being able to provide, additional services outside of the traditional services that they'll be able to charge for. I mean, they would be able to provide what we call value-added services, and for those services, they would be able to charge, which chances are it's outside of the CBDC ecosystem.
What impact is this going to have on this whole business of financial inclusiveness that the Bank of Jamaica has been promoting?
Well, that is one of the main objectives on top of, supporting, the government of Jamaica's digital transformation. We have a national financial inclusion strategy that's out, and one of our objectives is also facilitating financial inclusion. I mean, having access to digital wallet, you can access that utilizing the recently updated money laundering regulations and updates to the Proceeds of Crime Act that simplified know your customer and customer due diligence. So just you only need your ID and your TRN, and that's it to get started.
Well, explain to me how this digital wallet works. Let us say that I'm heading down to Negril.
Yes.
I get to Savlamar and I notice that my fuel is running low. I stop at a petrol station. How does my digital wallet help me to fill up my tank?
All right. So your digital wallet. Let me just explain what a digital wallet is. It's not a traditional bank account or deposit account. It's really an application that's on a mobile device. So this can be your phone, your tablet, or any other instrument that your wallet provider provides. Once you have that value, let's say $5,000 stored in your digital wallet, and you stop at a gas station, and that gas station would have requested from their wallet provider the ability to accept, Jamdex using that digital wallet, then you would be able to utilize your mobile device, and there's what we call a QR code. It's almost like a barcode that you are able to scan for that gas station, or that gas station can scan your own personal QR code. You would input, the $5,000 that you want to purchase for the gas, and hit enter, and that's it.
Well, I mentioned earlier an experience I had. I was at a supermarket. I was in line at the cashier, and there was a customer ahead of me, and when they totaled up her grocery charges, she took out her smartphone and she handed it to them, and they did something or the other with it. And she packed up her groceries and she went her way, and I was bewildered. Now, is that what we're talking about?
That's exactly what we're talking about.
But how pervasive is this? I mean, how many gas stations out there can accommodate this kind of transaction?
Yes, and that's where the communication comes in. That's where we seek to have a communication program that will be launched during this year between the Bank of Jamaica as well as the NCBTFOB right now, where we educate the public as to what Jamdex is, how you can access Jamdex through the use of a digital wallet, and also educate some of the things which persons are mainly concerned about, which is the security and the privacy, which all of that is maintained. But that is it's about getting the information out to the public that they're comfortable utilizing innovative technology such as this.
No, my recollection is that before Jamdex came out, there were financial entities that were offering money wallet. Is that true?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And
yes,
how have those been working?
All right. I mean, over time, there has been an issue, and the main issue was interoperability. So each institution would have developed their own mobile wallet, but they're all isolated. If you had a mobile wallet with Bank A and I had one with Bank B, I wouldn't be able to pay to you. But with the CBDC, the Jamdex solution, we are facilitating that, inter-wallet provider payment where, you're a customer on wallet A, wallet provider A, I'm a customer on wallet provider B. And that interoperability aspect where I can transfer from my wallet provider all the way over to you. And that's seamless in less than 10 seconds.
But tell me something, Mario. It's interesting that you mentioned that, because that seems to require a kind of interfacing between the various financial entities in Jamaica.
Yes.
Let me let off some frustration. I have credit cards with 1, 2, 3 different commercial banks. I have a current account with one of those 3. I pay my utility bills online. I just go on the computer and I tell my bank how much to pay to JPS or Water Commission or Digicel or Flow, whatever. But I cannot transfer funds from my current account to pay for my credit card bill at another bank. They won't allow it.
Right.
Why is that?
That's a good question. I don't have all the information right now, but just to say that, each institution does their own due diligence, and they need to know who you are. So they need to have the information on you to know that you are who you say you are. That's you know your customer and customer due diligence.
But is it due diligence, or is it that they just don't want to facilitate a competitor?
That's a very good question there. I probably need to find out a little bit more as to why that type of transaction isn't seamless. But certainly, I know one of such is to better understand you, and know who you are, and ensuring that we're not letting in anybody into the financial system that really should not be let in.
No, but I'm in already. I'm in with my current account bank holder.
Yeah.
And I'm in with my credit card issuer, which is another bank. So I'm in already. But
Agreed.
But my bank is prepared to transfer money to JPS, to Water Commission, to any utility. They're even prepared to transfer money to some other customer of that same bank, to their account. But if I say, now look, I have an account at another bank, transfer $50,000 to that account for me. They say, no, we don't do that. We're not into that kind of business.
Right, and that's some of the issues that we are working out, and that's why we're building this Jamdex solution. It really facilitates the technology.
Yeah, but that is going to require collaboration between the various financial entities, or else you're going to run into all kind of traffic jam.
Agreed, and that's why we're ensuring that the technology won't be that traffic jam.
But isn't this something that ought to be subject to some sort of regulatory intervention? I mean, for example, we had a problem with the telephone providers, where they wouldn't land calls from a competitor until the parliament had said, stop this damn nonsense. You are required to do it. And because of that, now, you can call from a Digicel to a Flow and from a Flow to a Digicel. It didn't come easy. The government had to step in and say, no. You can't operate as if you're in your own bubble. I mean, the customers need to be able to move from one, to make calls from one carrier to another. Mm-hmm. Is it not possible that we may have to look at something like that to make sure that the banks don't continue to sort of stake out their own fiefdom? Mm-hmm. In other words, what I'm saying is that this digital currency that you're introducing is going to require that sort of seamlessness throughout the whole banking sector. And I don't think that you can depend on the voluntary compliance of the financial entities because, some of them are so myopic. It may be something that regulation is going to have to address.
Regulation can address a number of things, but certainly, there are a couple of other things to consider. The technology, which we say that won't be the traffic jam, and then operationally, how do we get it done? I know, and I'm aware of what we call, by law, a National Payment System Council, and some of these issues that you have raised, given the frustration, are some of the items that are discussed. So certainly, these are things that are on the radar. And we definitely will continue the cooperation, collaboration with the various associations to ensure that these issues that customers face are resolved. And I believe that the Jamdex solution is one such way that provides you the option of choosing a different mean of payment. Utilize your digital wallet on Jamdex to do that same bill payment. And so we're giving you options.
Tell me, the Jamdex, does it enjoy the same protection that your banknotes enjoy? In other words, is it backed by the reserves of the Bank of Jamaica?
Certainly. It has the backing of the Bank of Jamaica. Definitely it does. And in terms of the various security that's around it, the Bank of Jamaica ensures that, the system itself is safe and secured. We're using all the latest technology. If you name it, we have it. Cryptography, digital signatures, cryptographic keys. We have all of that secured within our particular private network. So we're using it. And then what we're also doing is those same international standards and best practices, each wallet provider will also have to adhere to those, as well as educate their customer on what we call multi-factor authentication. So you not only just input a username and a password, but there's a one-time PIN that you may get via email or text, or if your smartphone allows, you're able to utilize the camera to do a facial recognition or even your thumbprint. So there is security around it, definitely airtight, I can say.
But the currency, what's its name? Digiflex?
No, Jamdex.
Jamdex, sorry. Jamdex is no more immune from inflation than the $100 bill that I have in my pocket, no?
No, because it is cash in a digital form.
I see. Now, tell me now, and I don't want you to hang up the phone on me.
I'm here.
The Bank of Jamaica has been at pains to point out that this is not a cryptocurrency. What is the difference?
All right, so it is definitely not a cryptocurrency. Mainly, let me just list out a few. A central bank digital currency is issued, in our case, will be issued by the Bank of Jamaica. We're ensuring that the legislation is in place that is legal tender. Now, cryptocurrency isn't legal tender, and that's the case in most countries. I believe only one or two countries, El Salvador, not quite sure who the other is, that would have legalized or made cryptocurrency legal tender there. And they have their reasons for that. The other is, as Jamdex, in our case, is issued and can only be issued by Bank of Jamaica, right? And it also has the backing, as you mentioned, of the Bank of Jamaica. Cryptocurrency can be issued by anybody, including you, including me. And it has no anchor. There's nothing underlying the cryptocurrency.
Why is it growing so exponentially? I mean, is this speculation?
That has been, one of the talking points, especially recently. That has been a talking point, and that is why the conversation is now shifting from cryptocurrency. I mean, you'll always have the discussion on cryptocurrency because it's topical, and they're moving into stable coins. That is a cryptocurrency that has the backing of some asset, whether it's US dollars, whether it's gold, whether it's oil, whatever it is, but it has an anchor.
Tell me something, the growing prevalence of cryptocurrencies, isn't this a major threat to the global financial system?
I would say yes, and that's why many of the international regulatory bodies, international bodies, IMF, Bank for International Settlement, they're all looking at it because, they want to understand it. They're also testing it because they want to understand the impact. I mean, earlier this morning, there's a conference on decentralized finance, and they're looking at, what will cryptocurrency look like and what will be that market in the next 5 years. And one person said $1 trillion market, and most persons in the audience agreed. So it is, growing in terms of size, and international bodies and the Bank need to be looking at it, and I believe they are, as well as the Bank for International Settlement. And the Bank of Jamaica is also looking into it as well.
Did we learn any lessons from the 2008-2009 financial crisis? I mean, are we waiting for this thing to reach a point where a bubble bursts and the whole global system is brought to its knees again?
I don't think so. One of the things that is not clear is, who owns the system or the asset that's on the system.
Well, that is what makes it so frightening.
That's correct, and it's for regulators to have a better understanding of what is this thing that we're seeing.
I gave an example when I opened up the discussion.
Sure.
There's a friend of mine. We were together 2 weekends ago. He said he bought a $500 Bitcoin for his son. And in a matter of a couple of months, it was now worth over $600. I don't know why I kind of getting a feeling of all-int and cash plus. And I mean, I wondered whether I should buy a few $100s for my grandchildren, but I'm not sure. Because there's no authority that I recognize and respect that says yes, this is good.
Correct, and that's one of the reasons why the Bank of Jamaica in 2017 and in last year would have published or a warning statement for persons engaging in cryptocurrencies to say, listen, if you're engaging in cryptocurrencies, whether purchase it as an asset for speculative purposes, if you do lose, just understand that there are risks, within cryptocurrencies, and those risks will be borne by you, the user and the holder.
Is there any conversation taking place between the central bank authorities across the world as to how we deal with this? What I'm at pains to try to express is that we don't wait for this thing to explode on us, that we try and see if we can get ahead of the game and say, hey, In other words, it may serve a purpose, It may be a store of value. It may be an asset that grows. But at the same time, you want to be assured that it is subject to some rules and some regulations that offer you some modicum of protection. In other words, if you're investing in stocks, you can win and you can lose, no? But you want to make sure that nobody is taking advantage of you.
That is correct, and that's why the Bank of Jamaica would have, published our caution statement. But to the first point, are international bodies looking at it, and the answer is yes. Regional bodies looking into it, and the answer is yes as well. It's as we mentioned, there's no central owner or entity for most of these, cryptocurrencies that you can point a finger on. So that is one of the reasons why we always, indicate to persons that you're doing. So if you're engaging in crypto to asset activities or cryptocurrency activities, it's at your own risk.
Well, yeah. Well, I want you to explain a little more to me. Take my friend, for example, whose $500 purchase for his son grew to over $600. If he were to decide today that he wants to cash that out, who pays that cash?
Good question. That is a very good question. That is a good question.
Well, that's why I want the answer from you. You are the expert. I'm just the prober.
Yeah, that is where, entities are seeking to have a better understanding of really what is the asset.
Well, hold on, Mario. Back up a little bit.
Sure.
When he purchased it and he put up the $500, in whose hands did that money rest at that point?
And that's the question that needs to be answered, and it goes back to the caution statement and what we have been saying to the public. We are not sure where your money is going. There's no regulatory provision that can protect you as a customer if you engage in such an activity.
So theoretically, it could well be David, whatever his name is, the old late man.
It all depends, because you have so many different cryptocurrencies out there. You have to believe you have over 4,000.
13,000 of them.
Or more, right. Right. But another point you made, yes, the international authorities are looking at it. But the second point is you said it could be a very good initiative. And I believe what the international, bodies are looking at is the technology that is underneath or underlying cryptocurrencies. And that's, the blockchain technology. And that is where the excitement is. And that is where, regulators such as central banks and monetary authorities are looking into the technology to better understand how it works.
Yeah? I don't want to sweep it off the table, right?
Sure.
Because in the same way that people invest in stocks in the hope that they will, earn dividends and the value of the stock will go up. I don't have a problem with somebody who provides a product that offers those kind of opportunities. But in the same way that when I invest in stock, I know that there's an authority that makes sure that nobody can cook the books, nobody can do insider trading,
Right.
for that you can go to prison. You need to operate a thing on a level playing field with fairness and transparency. That gives me the confidence that I need in order to put my money in a stock. Knowing that when I put my money in that stock, even with those assurances, the value of that stock could well go down, but it mustn't go down because somebody was fiddling with the books or manipulating the system. So it seems to me that this is where we ought to be looking to go. Not to say, well, only government central banks should be able to issue tradable currencies. That's not. I don't think that's necessarily where we're going because the world is changing. But you ought to be able to. Ultimately, people who elect governments must depend on governments to provide them with an environment that protects their rights, no? And I'm just trying to see if I can provoke your mind as to whether or not that is the direction in which we're looking.
What I can say is that, all the research points to one main thing. What is it that we're looking at? What is our cryptocurrency? What is it utilized for? Is it used for as a currency? Does it meet all the characteristics of a currency, unit of account, minimum exchange, store value? If no, then what exactly is it? Is it an asset?
And does it have the due diligence to make sure that this is not money laundering taking place, no?
Right. So that's why we're looking into it, and that's why the Bank of Jamaica decided to provide something that you can see. It's transparent. That's Jamdex. We're giving you everything that you have now in the existing financial system in a digital form.
How has the Jamdex been going? I mean, you have a cap on it at the moment, no, in terms of the amount of money that is issued, or that can be issued.
We issued no cap, but what our first inaugural minting in August last year, we minted $230 million, and we can mint any amount we want within less than 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm. So that will depend on the level of take-up.
Correct.
Mm.
And that's where education comes in, and financial literacy.
And you say this is something that I will be able to operate from my smartphone?
Or any other mobile device that accepts.
Yeah. Seems to me, though, that there's a lot of work that is going to have to be done to bring the wallet providers online, because maybe you can't say it, but I'm not sure that they're going to be all that enthusiastic about another piece of competition on their doorstep.
I can say they are enthusiastic.
Do they get a fee for this? Do you pay them a fee?
No fee, zero cost. Jamdex is zero cost.
Zero cost to the consumer, but for example, the wallet providers, are they do they earn any money from the Bank of Jamaica for handling it?
No.
So what's in it for them?
Good. That's a good question. And what's in it for them is really a reduction in the cost of handling banknotes and coins. That's one of the key, you know, points as
Yeah,
in
but
what.
but right now they're recovering that cost by gouging out my eyes with their fees. So what's in it for them to facilitate you?
Mhm. Right. So, that's the cost reduction for them, as I mentioned, in terms of handling, distributing, and storing of cash. And also, tapping into that untapped market, the unbanked, the underserved, and, being able to build around that market.
We're coming to the 12 o'clock break, so we're going to
Yes.
wrap this up shortly. But I wanted to just end the discussion on this. This whole business of financial inclusion.
Yes.
I imagine that in order for it to be properly rolled out, it has to be rooted in simplicity, ease of transaction.
Correct.
Explain to me now. Minister Clark in the budget debate spoke about how he paid his barber through I think through Jamdex or whatever.
Using Jamnex.
Yeah, but tell me now, the barber up in Crofts Hill,
Yes.
how you going to get him on board for this thing? Him is there with his electric shear. Him
Yes.
is cutting hair and creating all kind of crazy designs. And he charges $500 or $800 or
Mm-hmm.
$1,000 for a haircut. Um, what does this mean to him?
Well, it means a lot. If it is that the barber doesn't have a.
Hold on, no. When he finished cutting your hair,
Yes.
he wants to be able to, when him lock up in barber shop, he want to be able to stop at the bar and buy a white rum or buy, £2 or something to carry home.
Mm-hmm.
So how is your thing going to affect the way he lives?
Right. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about building that ecosystem, getting all the necessary wallet providers, getting the merchants on, getting the public on. Once you have that ecosystem, then, financial inclusion becomes a little bit easier. So, financial inclusion, for payments.
But Mario, when you talk about merchants, we're
Yeah.
not talking just about, Hilo and Megamart.
No, corner shop. Corner shop.
We're talking about the corner shop.
Agreed.
How are you going to get them on board?
And I'm with you there. So, it's all about educating, the barbers, the cane cutters, the corner shops about what, Jamdex is, what the digital wallet is. And once they have an understanding, it's ensuring that they have the necessary information. Your government, you say the ID, your TRN, and sometimes onboarding is even electronic. So you can stay in your barber shop or at your corner shop, utilize your mobile device and actually have access to your CBDC wallet or your Jamnex wallet. And from there, it's about usage. It's about receiving those payments, for your services, such as the barbershop or, selling goods at your corner shop, and being able to turn around and utilize that same mobile device that you use to register, also to make your payment in Jamnex.
Are you satisfied that we have the basic infrastructure, digital infrastructure to support it?
I would say at the moment, yes.
Well, we're going to follow this up. We really want to follow this up, so we may be calling you again. Mr. Mario Griffith, Director of Payment System Policy and Development Department at the Bank of Jamaica. Thank you so much for helping us today with a very complex issue. Thank you so much. Welcome back. It's Jamaica Live. We're on Bridge 99. It's now 1 minute and 12 seconds after midday in Jamaica. 1 minute and 18 seconds now after 1 o'clock in New York. And we're hoping to link with Irish Jam in New York shortly. Today we're talking about digital currencies. And we had a very interesting discussion with the Director of Payment System Policy and Development at the Bank of Jamaica, Mr. Mario Griffith. I'm learning a lot in the course of this discussion, because this is not an issue on which I have a great deal of knowledge. I'm trying to see if I can gather as much information as I can. And someone that we want to welcome to the program now is a noted financial analyst, columnist. He's actually the fourth vice president of the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Keith Collister. Keith, are you online?
Yes, sir. I'm online. Nice to hear your voice and to speak to you.
Yeah, well, I'm glad to have you on, Keith. Digital currencies.
Yes.
I know very little about them. I'm sure you know a lot more. What do they mean? What impact are they likely to have? What are the risks involved? How should the Jamaican authorities respond? The Bank of Jamaica has introduced its own digital currency, right? Jamdex, which is basically a proxy for the bill that I have in my wallet.
Yeah.
But they have been very skeptical, maybe too harsh a word, but they have certainly cautioned against people investing in the cryptocurrencies. There's a sharp distinction between the two.
Yeah.
But when I look at what is happening to cryptocurrencies, I mean, in the short space of time that they have been on the scene, more than $2 trillion of money is tied up there.
Yes.
What does this mean for us?
Well, it's a very clearly there. The world is changing, and we're moving in a very different direction than we have been for a long time. Now, I can't tell you that I'm an expert on cryptocurrencies, because if I want to be brutally honest, like the Bank of Jamaica, I'm a little skeptical at this time as to, and I'll go into that, but I'm certainly very enthusiastic about the move towards central bank digital currencies, although that also has its own issues. And of course, Jamaica signing up for doing a pilot where one of the first, Bahamas, I think, was before us, of course, and there are other things that are going on, and of course also the whole issue of digitizing Jamaica and the use of blockchain and what that can present as an opportunity is another part of this. So let's start quickly with crypto. And as I said, I don't want to spend a lot of time today on that, simply because I don't regard myself as an expert, but B, I think there's some reasons still to be cautious on it, despite the fact that it has in fact become very popular. There are certain countries, for example, Bahamas again, which is in fact created a suite of legislation with respect to crypto, and on the security side, and is in fact looking at it potentially as if you want to call it, a new offshore financing business. So they're ahead of us in terms of that experiment, right? Having said that, their own central bank digital currency, which is also ahead of us, although not that much ahead of us, because we are now got one as an example, is not a blockchain product. So although there are, I think
it's fully authorized by the government.
Yes. No, I'm just saying that we need to make some distinguishing. So let's look at crypto. Crypto, of course, is reliant on the blockchain and that whole interaction and the tracing of it in that way, right? The central bank digital currency, both in Jamaica and Bahamas, as I understand it, is not, is as you say, basically a digital ledger, I think, at the central bank, and is meant to be as good as a dollar in your, or should I dare say, a $2,000 in your palm. Yes. And is meant to replace that and will have advantages over that.
Keith,
So,
can I ask you just pause a moment?
sure,
We have to link with New York now and bring them into the discussion.
absolutely, absolutely.
Beauregard,
Good afternoon, Mr. Golden.
big man, how are you?
How are you doing, sir? How's everything?
And I'm good. We're
I'm doing
talking
great.
about digital currency today. We're both
Great topic.
authorized and the cryptocurrencies. Is that a big issue up there?
Yes, it is for a lot of people. Many people here in the United States and around the world are moving towards the cryptocurrency, the Bitcoin, and things of that nature.
But take the
A lot of
average
people
take the average Jamaican in the diaspora. Is this something that they are putting the money in?
Yes, some people are. I'm not going to say, I would say 1 out of 3 people would be interested in cryptocurrency and digital currency at this point.
Are they fully?
Because a lot of,
Do they fully understand how the system works? And I mean, there are profits to be gained, but do they fully understand the risk that they're taking?
yes, I believe so. For those who are interested, they do understand the risk. Some people know that when you go crypto, it's just person-to-person transactions that take place. The banks are not involved. And people also know that they're getting ready to introduce the digital currency also, where the banks keep a tab on all the money that you're going to be spending digitally. According to the G7 summit last year, I believe they introduced something called the CBDC, which is the central bank digital currency, because they felt that the cryptocurrencies is starting to destabilize the banking system, and they have to get a hold back on what's going on. So they cannot be left out of this, all these money transactions that's taking place.
The last time I checked, there were over 13,000 cryptocurrencies out there in the market. Do you know if any of them has gone belly up?
Has gone where, sir?
Belly up, collapse. People lose their money.
Oftentimes I see the trade numbers come through on my phone. They go up and down daily. So I'm not one of the people who are currently involved in the.
But you're not aware that any of them has collapsed?
No, sir, no.
Well, it's an important discussion because, when a Jamaican work in the snow up there and save up their money, the last thing you want now is for them to go lose all of that because they took uninformed decisions. So we're trying today to see if we can provide some information from people who know more about it than I do and to provide some guidance. So I hope you find the program instructive.
I'll be listening. Same here.
All right, Bo, all the best to you.
Same to you, sir.
We're back now with Mr. Keith Collister. He's the fourth vice president of the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce. Keith, sorry for that interruption, but you're now being heard. You're now being heard through the tri-state area, so New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, hearing you.
Well, that's very interesting. Well, look, let's try and work out. First of all, I'm actually chair of the Economic Affairs and Taxation Committee of the Chamber of Commerce. So I'm a director, but I've decided to just become a director again. So I'm no longer a vice president.
I see. So. All right. My apologies.
No, that's fine. But he raised and you raised a very good point about cryptocurrencies. The issue for me, frankly, is first of all, if you have 13,000, if you have more than one or you have thousands, then and if it's a sort of you can mint your own currency, so there's no. Yes, you're supposed to do all this fancy mathematics with a computer to mint the currency and so on. But if there's so many currencies and if people are creating their own versions and so on, clearly that doesn't sound to me like what I would call any kind of store of value, right? It seems more like a
certainly doesn't suggest stability.
Yes. And it hasn't shown stability anyway. It's been, they've moved, so clearly, if you had been in there early, clearly you made a lot of money, right? But the problem you have, of course, is that apparently someone can steal your coins, and then, of course, so then you don't have any money anymore, or you might, if you lose your ID, your way to your password and so on. If there are different ways for you not to. It's not like a bank account where you can go and you're sure that your money is going to be there. So it's a different thing. Now, I have a bigger problem, I think, with crypto is that I can't actually work out what the true use case for it is, other than being as a speculative vehicle, like, you go to the racetrack kind of thing. So I get the racetrack aspect, but up to this point, it doesn't seem like it really fulfills the function of money. Or you have an economics background, you know what I mean. Store of value being the most important, but it's not a very efficient medium of exchange either. It seems to me that it looks like more the kind of medium of exchange that it may have uses to pay for things on the dark web or whatever, but it's not got what seems to be a normal version of the medium of exchange. So people can send money in cryptocurrencies, maybe to the Ukraine. You could say that you might say that's a positive use case, but that is not. It doesn't seem like it has what I would call a conventional use case for it to justify it.
One of the concerns that I have, Keith, is if it continues to grow as exponentially as it has been growing, aren't we running the risk that it could one day make the 2008-2009 financial crisis look like a little blip?
Well, that's a very good question. The question is if it gets to a sufficient size. I don't necessarily think it's going to have the same impact. No, and I'll tell you why. I think part of the situation with the financial crisis, and as you know, something I looked at the time was that the connectivity of the major institutions. So you had a combination of things that were happening there. Although crypto has one of those things, which is opaque, right? So things were not very transparent at that time. So it does have that in common. But what it doesn't really have currently anyway in common is that it doesn't have connectivity. So it's not like the linkages to all these different financial institutions. It's not like JP Morgan is putting all its money into crypto and its financial viability is dependent on whether or not how the price of crypto is doing. And on top of that, it's not that, well, the capital situation of Wall Street is very different than it was in 2008, which is another part of it. Of course, as you know, at the time they were very highly leveraged. So it hasn't got those aspects to it currently. And I think one of the interesting things is how the U.S. authorities, in particular the SEC, is going to actually regulate this. I mean, I haven't kept fully up to date, but it seems as though they're trying to work out how to regulate it since the last time I checked, and they haven't yet worked out how that would be. So that's one issue. They can't work out how to regulate. So that does give you a little bit of a concern. And then, sorry, go on.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Finish your point.
Yeah, so the SEC is trying to regulate it. And the other thing I think I saw recently was that obviously the U.S. government's trying to work out how to tax it. So people are being said, okay, well, here's your tax bill on your crypto profits or something like that. I'm not sure how far that's gone, but that's another interesting development. So there's a whole, I guess the bottom line is there's a whole heap of uncertainty about it, which is why I think it's more useful to sort of think about the central bank, the wave towards central bank digital currencies that is also occurring, which, as your readers or your listeners should know, Bahamas has already implemented one. Jamaica is moving out of the pilot stage in terms of our own central bank digital currency. And in fact, the Europeans are looking to accelerate a euro, and the UK is looking at the pound, and of course the United States, I think, has been has some legislation with respect to that themselves, which they're looking at now. So a lot, and of course the Chinese are already also, I think, have a pilot going on right now in terms of their own central bank digital yuan. So, and they of course have outlawed cryptocurrencies, which is an interesting point. So
has any country outlawed it?
I think China has.
China.
I'm not sure who else has, because apparently they had a very, it was growing at leaps and bounds there, and a lot of money was going around there. And of course, they would be more inclined to regulate in the way your listener said earlier. They clearly would be one of those countries that would be sort of wanting to know what people are doing with their money earlier than, say, other countries.
What is the likelihood, you think, Keith, that certainly the governments in the major financial markets are going to knock heads together and say, hey, this thing is undermining our regulatory authority. This thing has the possibility of creating systemic risk. Therefore, we have to bring it under some regulatory framework. Is that likely to happen?
I personally believe that's actually the main short-term risk to the price of cryptocurrency in the short run. In other words, if someone like the United States or the UK or Europe or something, really, I guess it's the United States for our purposes. Now, is that going to happen tomorrow? Maybe not. But is it going to happen at some point? Well, I think it's quite likely that at some point, some of these major, if it continues to grow and they start to see it as a sort of some kind of systemic risk, then it would not surprise me if something like that happened.
Do the issuers of cryptocurrencies, do they have any guardrails now? They don't have any know your customer ethos.
Not.
I mean, for all you and I know, money launderers are having a field day.
Well, when I look at the use cases, and I didn't really want to say this very directly, but as far as I could tell, the best use case that one could think of is that. It's not, that people will be willing to pay something for that to happen, and interestingly enough, you will remember when we had our own situation here with the Ponzi's and so on. Part of the justification that was given as to why this was a real thing, which it turned out it wasn't. But I tried to tell a few people at the time this is not a real thing. But anyway, part of the justification that people said, well, it is real, is because they said, well, people can, essentially it was like a way to launder money. So that was part of the justification used at the time. Now, at the time, I don't think it actually was a real justification, interestingly enough, or it was, it was just something that people came up with. But in the case of crypto, I would say that it is actually potentially a real justification. It's a use case, if you want to call it that.
But one of the, forgive me if I sound sort of, superstitious or whatever, but I remember when Olent was thriving, there's somebody that I know, I think you know as well, who told me that he put 2 million in it. It grew very quickly to 6 million, and he took it out because he knew it was going to collapse.
Yes, I know a few of those people.
But he made 4 million on his too. No.
He made the money. That's right. He made the money.
What worries me is whether or not cryptocurrencies will gain a certain legitimacy because of its, growth and so on.
Yeah.
Because people who know, who have the intelligence, who have the knowledge, jump in. They liquidate at a time where they consider that, well, this is the time to get out. And leave poor, illiterate financial people like me
holding the bag.
Holding the bag.
Yes. Well, frankly, that's my concern too. I mean, I think the crypto thing is a little different in that, this is a global phenomenon. There's a global market. It's like it can go as far as the sort of what I would call the the Ponzi's in Jamaica were concerned, I think it was fairly easy to sort of reckon on the timing of it. I mean, it wasn't, as I said, I did warn a few people, and even wrote some articles saying, implying, you need to be careful. But the timing, you knew there was a definitive timing, that because you're relying on other people's money to keep going, so you knew that the timing that was going to end. The thing about something like crypto, you don't really have the same timeline in terms of guessing how something might end, because you don't know how big it's a global thing, it's not a local thing. There's a lot more money out there, right? So I can't tell you if this is going to end badly in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. It could be, you don't know how long, right? So people can continue making money, and then they will say, well, I made money, so that's fine. The problem is, at the moment, we can't yet find a real justification for it, other than other people want to buy it, other than, say, something like a money laundering, which is not the right justification, really, because it's costly to transact, not very efficient. There's other more efficient things. It uses up a whole heap of energy, and we are for the mining, and we are now of the view globally that we should not be doing that for obvious reasons with the climate and so on. Obviously they use places like with hydropower, or places like Iceland with a lot of energy. We of course don't have cheap energy here in Jamaica, so we're not the ideal place to mine currency. So there's a lot of reasons why this doesn't seem like it's going to work, but we can't say. We can't really comment on timing.
Tell me, from your understanding, for example, the people who issued Bitcoin, is there a headquarters somewhere? Are there financial statements that are published?
No. They don't even know who actually came up with it originally. It's supposed to be some obscure Japanese fellow, but nobody's actually sure if who was the original creator.
So it's entirely peer to peer.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's a lot of people seem to believe in it. Me and you even talking negatively about it is probably going to get some feedback. But and I'm not saying anything's going to happen to anybody tomorrow in it. It's just that there still is no, as far as I can tell, other than as a speculative medium, and the fact that other people want to buy it, there is no real use case. The only ones that we've thought of are really money laundering and anonymity, which is related, and anonymous. But and even then, that's a dubious case, actually, the anonymity thing, because of the whole blockchain connection. It's puzzling. Frankly, it's puzzling that it's become as big as it has. Other than it has people have made money on it, and therefore anything that people make money on, people are happy to consider.
So let me make sure we understand it. I mean, me and my listeners.
Yeah.
Let us say that I have $1,000 of Bitcoin.
Yeah. You need a fraction, actually, because if it's a Bitcoin 50,000, then you'd have to have like a 50th. But you can do.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Whatever. Yeah. But that value, for which I paid good backed US dollars, that value is dependent on one and only one thing, and that is the willingness of somebody to pay me US dollars for it.
That's as far as I know. I don't know any other reason.
So, in other words, if I wake up one day and find that nobody is willing to buy my Bitcoin, that Bitcoin, for all practical purposes, is useless.
Goes to zero, right? That's as far as I can understand. That is exactly how it works. There is no.
And there's nobody that I can dial up and say, hey, I need to get back my money.
Right. No, I mean, that's right. That's my understanding of how it works. Now, someone will say to you, and people have said this to me, well, look, a U.S. dollar isn't really backed by anything. What's the difference? And I say, well, it's actually kind of simple, really. The United States government, for example, it's not about how much gold they may still have in their vault or whatever, Fort Knox. It's about the fact that U.S. has a capacity to tax everybody. So you have a country with tens of trillions of assets. The U.S. government has the ability to tax and demand payments in U.S. dollars, and therefore, it can, if you like, there's a basis in which it stands behind the currency it issues beyond simply the fact that it's issued the currency, and we're in a fiat system. So people are a little confused about that. So they think that that's a justification, some kind of justification. It's not that the U.S. prints money. So that's, and of course, that's not just true for the United States. It's true for virtually every other country in the world. So, of course, a place like Jamaica, we haven't had the same history of stability as in terms of managing our finances until recently to give us the kind of credibility the U.S. dollar had.
Help me out, Keith, before we go.
Sure.
Who gathers the margins in this something? I mean, is this a pyramidic structure where somebody at the top is creaming up, or is it everybody who is willing to buy or willing to sell?
Well, part of it is there's lots of people printing, minting. They call it minting bitcoins, but it's a long process, deliberately so, and it uses a lot of energy. So if you like, you could say those people who mint some more make some more money, right? Yeah, and they find somebody else buys these coins, and the idea is there's a limited supply because you can't mint more than a certain amount.
So who does the minting?
Well, apparently you could do it on a peer-to-peer basis. I must confess I'm not an expert in this area, and it's not something I invest in, so I can't. So the people who actually invest in it, but I haven't yet managed to find what I would call smarter guys than me have tried to find a true use case for Bitcoin, and we don't seem to have yet found it, other than people make money and they can use it for transactions, but it's not super efficient in terms of transaction. Paying for things in Bitcoin is still not a very useful way of doing it, and it's very energy expensive to mine it. You're coming back. You keep coming back to this issue. Well, is it really a way of money laundering and so on?
It sounds very Olympish to me.
And in which case, the United States, you can believe that at some point, if this becomes a real problem, you can believe at some point global governments are going to get around to looking at it seriously and saying, well, I'm not sure this is the right thing. Now, the Chinese government made that decision already, and they may have had different parameters in how they were making their decision, right? So So we can't necessarily use them as the standard, but the fact is that I am much more positive on what I would call central bank digital currencies in terms of a long-term future than Bitcoin per se.
Keith, we are out of time, but I want to thank you so much. I mean, this discussion has been very useful. I hope my listeners have found it useful, because I have been brought far more up to speed than I was when I started the program at 11 o'clock. So I want to thank you so much for
I want to warn you, I don't regard myself as a Bitcoin expert. I just think I know a little bit.
No, but I believe, but put it this way.
A little bit about economics and finance. That's what I know a little bit about.
Put it this way, maybe expertise is not what we need. Maybe what we need is the kind of perspective that uninformed people like me bring to it, and let us explore it, and let us see exactly what this thing is all about. We're going to be talking to Dr. Damien King shortly, so I hope that he's going to be able to take the discussion to the next level. Thank you so much, Keith.
Sounds good. Thanks very much.
Good, we take a break. Well, welcome back. It's Jamaica Live. We're on Bridge 99. And today we've been focusing, we're a single issue program. We spend 2 hours on a single issue to try to dive as deeply into it as we can to get as full an understanding as we can. And today we've been talking about digital currencies. And we had a discussion earlier in the program with Mr. Mario Griffiths, who is the Director of Payment System Policy and Development at the Bank of Jamaica. He spoke to us about the JAMDEX, which is the digital currency issued by the Bank of Jamaica. And we understand what that is. In my layman terms, it is a proxy for the banknotes that we have in our wallet or in our pocket. And it offers some advantages in the sense that we will avoid some of the fees that the banks charge us when we do transactions through the banks. And it, as Mr. Griffiths expressed, it is hoped to speed up the whole process of financial inclusiveness so that more people can become part of the official financial network. But much of the discussion has been focused on cryptocurrencies. What they are, what they mean, what impact they are likely to have on the financial markets across the world, what are the risks that are involved. And we're very pleased now to be joined by someone who I know is going to help us to get a better understanding of what this means. And that is economist Dr. Damien King, who also happens to be the executive director of CAPRI, our leading think tank and research organization. Dr. Damien King, welcome to the program.
Mr. Golding, it's my pleasure to be with you. As usual.
Well, I'm so happy to have you because this business of cryptocurrency, this is where I wanted to focus. JAMDEX, I think we have discussed that. I think we understand it. What I'm not sure we understand is this thing called cryptocurrency. What the devil is it? Is it another OLINT?
Well, if you don't mind, I heard that introduction and heard that you have already discussed what it is. But by way of ensuring that you and I and the listeners have a common platform to explain cryptocurrencies, let me just go back a bit and talk a bit about the central bank's digital currency. And I want to start by creating a parallel. One of the great things that has happened over the course of our lifetimes is this whole digitization of information that the internet and computers has allowed us to do. Back in the old days, if you wanted to give me information, if you were on vacation in Portugal and you wanted to tell me you were having a grand time, but I should please remember to feed your dogs, then you had to attach that information to a physical medium, and then people had to transport that physical medium to me for me to get the information. What computers and digitization allowed is for the information to come to me without it being attached to a physical medium. There's a parallel here between currency, money, and central bank digital money. With paper money, if I want to transfer purchasing power to you, then the medium to which it is attached, the piece of paper to which that purchasing power authority is attached, has to be physically transported to you. This is not a problem if you're my next door neighbor, because I can knock on your door and say, here. But if you are my relative living in Tokyo, or we're in Kingston and you're living in give them a bit, then the physical medium, the paper, has to be transported to you. So central bank, mobile money in general does for transferring information, does for payments, for spending authority, what emails have done for transporting information. Mobile money in general separates the authorization of purchasing power from a physical medium, and so therefore it too can be sent over any distance.
And done so instantly.
And almost costlessly.
Mm.
And so what the central bank is doing, now we already have mobile money, you know. There are many banks that allow you to make that transfer of purchasing power authority electronically. And what they do is they get the instruction, they take the purchasing power equivalent from your bank account, and they send the authorization to somebody else's bank account. So that's a form of electronic transfer, and if it takes place on your phone, it's a form of mobile money. The problem with that is that it needs the bank. It needs the bank account and it needs the bank. And as we all know, you had a discussion about financial inclusion and exclusion. As we all know, that limits its accessibility to those who can get bank accounts or even want bank accounts. Because this digital currency is being issued by the central bank, you don't need to have a bank account to have it in a wallet on your phone any more than you need a bank account to have currency. The app on your phone that tells you you have $1,000 in central bank issued currency is all you need. It need not be attached to any bank account.
How would I have gotten that? From maybe if I work for somebody, they transfer it to my phone?
They could transfer it to your phone, or there will be points where you can, there will be agents where you can go and you hand over cash and they put it on your phone wallet, it's called, your mobile wallet. But after a while, as you're pointing out, you'll be receiving your payments themselves directly in that form. So this is actually quite revolutionary. But it is issued by the central bank.
So it is fully backed?
It is better than backed. It is itself currency. It's not backed by currency. It is itself currency in an electronic form.
Mm-hmm.
So there need be no backing.
Talk to me about crypto now.
Now with that understanding, we can go to cryptocurrency.
Yes.
Cryptocurrency is, once again, itself digital currency. That it exists not as a representation of digital currency that some institution has allowed you to access. It exists not because you have deposited money with a financial institution that says that you can transfer it with my permission. It itself is currency. The difference, though, is that it is not issued by any central bank. Many years ago, somebody developed a bit of software that allows your ownership of that amount of currency to be secure and transferable without any central bank permission. That is what cryptocurrency is. There's a cryptographic, that is just to say clever software that makes it secure. There's a cryptographic algorithm, a bit of clever software that ensures that your ownership is secure and also that nobody can debase it, can create large amounts of it and make the amount that you own worthless.
What ensures that, Damien?
Well, this is how we get into the clever software part. This is what is there are two elements to that clever software. One part of it is called a blockchain. We can't attempt to explain what the blockchain does, over the course of this medium, but rest assured that the blockchain is where who owns it and which transfers have been made are stored, and it is stored in a way that it cannot be altered after the fact. Nobody can go back and undo it. They can't delete any software and undo it to say the transaction didn't take place.
Why not? Why not?
Someone who made the payment.
Why not? Who oversights it?
Well, because nobody is overseeing it, because it is embedded in virtually unhackable software. Then it doesn't need somebody to oversee it. So
I try to wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
But who issues it? Who starts it? Who gets it going?
Well, again, it only gets issued, it only gets increased if a particular computer problem is solved. And the problem, to solve it, for new currency to be issued, gets increasingly difficult the more of it that it is done. So there really is a limit to how much it can be increased in a particular period of time. But it's all embedded in software.
But
what is more, this software that records and embeds all of the transactions and who owns how much of it, that storage is distributed over tens of thousands of computers worldwide, sometimes hundreds of thousands. So hacking into one computer or destroying one server does not destroy the information. That part of it is another buzzword called a distributed ledger software. The ledger, the recording of it, is distributed worldwide. So the combination of the blockchain and the distributed ledger approach means that the information is secure.
So is there anybody anywhere sitting in an office with an address that has a mouse at their fingertip that can alter the algorithm or whatever you call it?
No. This is why the invention of this software a few decades ago was so important. That once this blockchain idea is encoded, because of the cryptography, because of the code embedded in it, and how each block of transactions is inextricably linked to every previous block, then anybody who attempts to alter one block, it becomes inconsistent with the whole chain, and it doesn't work. And once again, you can only attempt that in relation to one storage site. But it's replicated across tens and hundreds of thousands of storage sites around the world.
So explain to me now, where are the controls? Is it based on this peer-to-peer, elaborate peer-to-peer expansive arrangement? Or is there, when I checked this morning, there are over 13,000 cryptocurrencies out there. So is it that each of these 13,000 have a separate blockchain?
Yes. But here's the thing. If you were to check, you would also find more than 13,000 restaurants, but some are more important and more reputable than others. So you sort of know, depending on how much you want to be able to transact with other people and how much security you want, which ones to gravitate to. Same thing is true of banks. But there's an additional security that comes with the cryptographic version that doesn't apply to the central bank issued version. One of the dangers you have in holding a national currency is that a monetary authority can undermine the value of the currency it has previously issued by printing too much. Same thing applies to digital currency issued by the central bank. They can issue too much. And this creates high inflation that erodes the value of those who already have some of it. Now, Jamaica has a long history of high inflation, so we know that this happens. And other countries, it has been worse. Recently, Venezuela and Zimbabwe have both had hyperinflation, which completely destroyed people's savings. The cryptographic approach, which puts an unbreakable limit on the amount that can be issued, doesn't have that risk. So it's more secure in that sense.
Does it pose...
The other advantage is that because the cryptographic version is not issued by a national authority, then it is internationally tradable. No, I can't pay somebody in Spain with, well, I can pay somebody in Spain with Jamaican dollars, but Jamaican dollars are not of much use in Spain with Jamaican issued central bank digital currency. Whereas the cryptographic versions of digital currency can be sent worldwide and have value in other countries.
Does it pose any threat to the global financial system?
That's a big question because there are a number of dimensions here. Let me talk about one to begin with. Over the years, we hear talk from time to time, especially after the periods of high local inflation. We hear talk from time to time of countries like Jamaica shouldn't have their own currencies. They should just dollarize and use the US dollar. And indeed, there was a time when even though we issued Jamaican currency, we only issued Jamaican currency, this is 70, 80 years ago, we only issued Jamaican currency in exchange for US dollars in the monetary authority so that the Jamaican dollars issued were fully backed by an international currency. In that case, it was the pound, the British pound. As much as we hear talk from time to time of not having a monetary authority be able to debase the currency by issuing too much of it, there is a huge advantage to having a central bank that does have some discretion over the amount of currency it issues. And the advantage is that within limits, it can tweak the amount of currency it issues, pushing out some, pulling it back from time to time to respond to local economic conditions and shocks and opportunities in the economy. A well-managed central bank knows when the economy needs an expanded money supply to finance the impetus for growth and the need for people to carry out more transactions, and when to pull back on the money supply when there is more spending than the economy can support and it leads to inflation. We are seeing the advantage of that now with our central bank realizing that the inflationary impetus is too great and trying to pull back on the amount of money circulating. So a central bank having control over the amount of money circulating, even though it poses a danger, at least a theoretical danger of hyperinflation, is an important thing for a well-managed central bank to have. If people start using a currency that is not issued by the central bank, whether it's US dollars or cryptocurrency, if that comes into widespread use, then the central bank loses that power. All central banks will lose that power. And it means that managing the economy on a month to month and a quarter to quarter and a year to year basis becomes impossible.
Do you envisage that the authorities in the major financial markets are going to knock heads together and say, hey, we better bring this thing under some sort of regulatory framework? And what impact would that have on the cryptocurrency market?
You see, here's a peculiar thing. It's difficult to bring it under regulatory framework because it is not issued by anybody. So when they get together and start to knock heads, and a fair number of heads have been knocked about on this issue, the first question they would face is not whether to bring it under regulatory control, but what regulatory controls do we actually have that can affect this market? I mean, apart from just declaring it to be illegal for anybody to hold it and transact in it.
Which I gather China has done.
Which China has done. But again, it's not something that takes place in the public sphere. So it's a kind of illegality that's nearly impossible to enforce.
Does it pose systemic risks?
So we don't fully understand what all the dangers are. We know what some of them are. We don't fully understand what all of them are. And we certainly don't understand if it can be effectively regulated.
Where does that leave us, Damien?
At the same time, as you were exploring this morning in your discussion with the representative from the Bank of Jamaica, digital currencies present tremendous opportunities and advantages to economic transactions and to the ease with which they can be made.
Well, up to now, JAMDEX, of course, is limited to domestic transactions. Is it possible that JAMDEX could have international versatility?
It's unlikely that any national currency, other than one of the major international currencies like the US dollar or the euro, it's unlikely that any small country's currency is going to have international versatility in the way that the US dollar does. However, yet another advantage of digital currencies, which is relevant to international versatility, is the difficulty and the cost and the delay we now have with making international payments. I pointed out that if you wanted to make a payment to somebody in Portugal or in Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaican dollars are not of much use to them. So how do you make a payment to them? Well, generally, it means you have to go and take the Jamaican dollars, physically exchange them for US dollars, and then ask a financial institution to send those US dollars to the financial institution of the person you are paying in another country, and then that person converts it to local Trinidad and Tobago dollars. If both Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica have digital currencies, that process can, not necessarily, but can be speeded up and at almost negligible cost. Because it's easier to arrange to have a settlement network that allows digital currencies to be exchanged for each other.
And do the conversion.
And do the conversion without going through any other currency, for it to happen quickly and cheaply, and then everybody just settles up at the end of the month, any net differences. So it does, the move to national digital currencies, especially for small countries, does present an opportunity for a kind of increased versatility.
Damien, this is a very scintillating discussion, but unfortunately I'm out of time. I'm 30 seconds away from wrap-up, so I want to thank you so much. It is something that I may want to prevail upon you to join me again to explore some more, because I think it's something that the Jamaican public needs to get a full understanding of,
Anytime, Mr. Golding.
So I want to thank you. Thank you so very much. Dr. Damien King, economist, executive director of Capri. This brings us to the end of the program. I'm out of here, but I'll be back here next week, Monday, God's willing, to do it again, Jamaica Live on Bridge 99. Thanks to my producer, acting producer, Miss Wigan, and to my studio engineer, the old time horse, Richie Rainford. He and I go back so long. He doesn't like to tell people about it, but he used to handle me when I was at another station in 2002 or somewhere thereabout. Thank you very much, Richie. God bless all of you, and I'll be back here next week, Monday, to do it all over again. Have a good week.